Welcome back, everyone, to Angel Heart Radio. This is A Divinely Ordered Life. I'm your host, Deb Goldberg, and we just finished up a beautiful 7 generational clearing and healing with Terry Angel. And this is a double header today. I'm so excited that I get to have Reverend Jeryl Anne Peterson Heatherdale with me. Now, Jeryl Anne is a spiritual teacher, holistic life coach, Reiki Master, Angelic Reiki practitioner, and healing facilitator, practicing a variety of alternative methods. And with 35 years of study in the field of metaphysics, she brings to her work a wide variety of teachings and personal experience in a gentle, compassionate, and loving manner. And she also is a video podcaster of Rising Up with Jeryl Anne. Her mission in this lifetime is to assist others in total healing for personal and planetary transformation and ascension, as well as advocate for the healing of Mother Gaia. Welcome, welcome, Jeryl Anne. And I know you're so much more than even what's on this bio. I'm so grateful to have you here with me today.
Oh, thank you for inviting me, Deb. I am really honored to be on your show. This is kind of exciting. I'm so used to being in your seat. So this is different for me.
Yeah. And it's great. So because now everybody could get to hear about you and all the awesome things that you do. And so I would really love for you to share with people how you got here. Like what is your life been that brought you to do all of these amazing things?
Oh my gosh. Well, that's a pretty packed question, but I'll do my best to keep it. I'll give you the Reader's Digest condensed version. Um, I Over 35 years ago, 12 a decade and a half before that, I was in broadcasting. And I had the opportunity to meet all kinds of really wonderful people and be exposed to a lot of different belief systems and so forth. But I was an avid reader. But I love the Danielle Steele novels and Jacqueline Suzanne. Those were kind of the juicy authors of our era, you know. And I kind of had this philosophy: she who dies with the most toys wins. I mean, I had this very glamorous life, and it was quite exciting and quite fun. But I was in the bookstore trying to find the latest Danielle Steele novel, and I was walking up to the cash register, and I walked by a display that had this hardbound book, Shirley MacLaine's Out on a Limb. And for some reason, I looked at it and I thought, no, that's not the kind of book I read. First of all, I never read autobiographies. And, you know, if it wasn't, you know, tantalizing and juicy, I didn't want to read it. I really wanted to be entertained. But I stood there and I read the cover, I put it back. So I went up and I checked out, and I kept thinking about this book, and I walked out of the bookstore and I had to walk back in. I picked up the book and I bought it. So I went home, and normally I would have picked up my latest novel, and I couldn't. I had to pick that book up and I couldn't put it down. That was my awakening. It was as if a light bulb went off in me. And I proceeded to go and try to find every one of those books that she mentioned in her book. And here's the thing: 35 years ago, there wasn't metaphysical bookstores. If you were on that path then, you remember in the bookstore there might be one shelf, maybe two shelves that said occult. There wasn't. And you could probably in the bigger cities find a metaphysical bookstore, but that was rare, and there wasn't the internet. So here I was, just like fully awake, going, oh my gosh. And of course, I was so excited to learn about reincarnation. I mean, it was like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. And I, I happened to, so I found a couple of the books in the occult section, and I got what I could. And it just so happened that at that time, our local junior college was offering adult education courses. And there was this class that was um, metaphysics and the Bible. And I thought, well, that's a pretty weird combination, right?
Mhm.
And so my fiance at the time, he and I signed up for the class. And we walked in and we sat down, and there was this guy, probably, now keep in mind, I was like 27, I think, 28 at the time. And we walked in, and there was this man in his 50s for sure, with one of those kind of Western snap down, shirts and cowboy boots. And he introduced himself and he said, "Hi, my name is Rex Franklin. I'm a primitive Baptist preacher. I'm from Oklahoma City originally." And of course, my fiance and I looked at each other and went, okay, it would be so rude if we got up and walked out right now, right? Right. And it ended up, that man became my first spiritual teacher. He was the most amazing man. He's the first person who introduced me to the concept that there really isn't any such thing as reincarnation, but that we're actually simultaneously living these lives out in other dimensions. I thought my head would explode. And that was the beginning of my journey.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So you just got awakened to information you were reading is and then meeting with a spiritual teacher just kind of grounded all of that in.
You did. And I want to let people out there know this. I have been on this path for 35 years. And from the get-go, I never had those experiences you guys all have. You, Terry, Ruth, everyone I know, they saw angels. You hear things, you see things, you have visions. I got to tell you something. 35 years later, I'm just now, every single step I took was on faith, because I didn't have any of those mystical experiences at all. Keep in mind, I also, though, was an alcoholic, an addict of every conceivable kind. And, but something within me kept me moving forward, kept me on that path. And when I first started on it, I became, I took numerology courses, and I found out that my life path was a 7, and my soul urge was a 7, and my expression was a 9. So what that means is if you're not walking a spiritual path of some type, you're going to go off. I mean, your life won't work. And then 9 is humanitarianism, education, studying. It's all of those things. So I knew, and my birthday is a 28-1. So I knew I was to lead. So all of those things kept me moving forward. And then I met, through my first spiritual teacher, a woman who became my spiritual partner for 13 years. And she saw guides, angels from the time she could remember. And one particular night, we were just we would stay up all night and talk. And all of a sudden, a different voice came out of her. And it was so bizarre. And it started talking, and for some reason I just started asking that voice questions, and I knew it wasn't her. It was distinctly different. And again, no internet, no books, no nothing. It was Melchizedek.
Oh my God.
Now, we didn't know who Melchizedek was. We thought it was maybe some dark thing, but the messages were so full of love and so profound. And if we would have been smart and written it all down, I would be here as an author today, because every book we ever read, it had some parts of the messages that he gave us, and others would eventually come through her as well. And and that started my journey. I couldn't read enough. I couldn't do enough. And I started became a rebirther. I walked on fire 4 times. I mean, there was nothing I wouldn't do because my heart was for God, spirit, source, creator, whatever you want to call it, not the religious, organized religion, concept of God. But my heart, I knew, was for God. And that was it,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And it was that probably kept me alive and learning the Reiki and learning all these healing modalities. And honestly, when I sat in my first Reiki class, I didn't even know what Reiki was. I'd just come back from rebirthing school, and a friend of mine who had a store, a metaphysical store, she said, listen, there's this Reiki thing going on, and there's one opening left. And I went, okay. And I sat there, and he said, this is what Reiki is, blah, 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 and first, second, third degree. And I went, I'm going to be a Reiki master. Seriously did not have a clue what it was. Not a clue. And that's how I've walked my whole spiritual path,
Mm-hmm.
always. But I say that to people because so many people want gifts. I mean, we all have them, but they get so dismayed. Trust me, I still, have finally at the age of 62 come to a place where I'm okay that they will come if they're to come, and if not, it's okay. But many of us, and then I see these young kids that are just starting and they have these beautiful gifts, and I go, yeah, really? Like, I've put in the time, seriously? And I want people to know it looks different for everyone.
Mm-hmm. What an important understanding, Jeryl Anne. That is so important to know that everybody's unique and their curriculum is so individualized to them. And what's really, your story is so empowering because what it tells you is that your spirit is guiding you the whole time. The
Yeah.
whole time. It's intuitive, and being able to follow it is what you've done. That in itself is a gift because a lot of times people don't follow their intuition and they don't trust it, don't know what it is, and then um, they don't they don't follow maybe the path that would be best for them. So you doing that is powerful.
Thank you. And I think that's one of the greatest lessons. And the other lesson that I learned, I'm still learning it, is that, we think when we wake up that we're supposed to be these highly perfect spiritual beings, because I can look at virtually everything and see it from one's aspect, from what we would call a higher perspective, and see a bigger picture. But the fact is that we came here in this 3D to experience the full gamut of emotions, to be the good guy, to be the bad guy, to be everything, to play these parts out. And I know that I have a tendency myself to get really down on myself when I allow myself to be human. We are spirits having a human experience. And it's so important that we do have a human experience and then look at it and go, okay, so that's not working real well for me. Let's heal that or transform it or whatever it is that we want to call it these days, and move on. And I have been healing transforming for 35 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I really believe that if we're drawing a breath, that we're gonna get stuck sometimes in the mud, and get in the mud. And the best we can do is, when we get out of the mud, hose ourselves off and forgive ourselves and move forward.
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole point of being here. Otherwise, we'd be somewhere else.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well,
Mm-hmm.
I think, one of my reminders today from God was, I want you to be free to be you. And that's your divine self. You want to call it your a divine human, whatever you want to call yourself, that you are perfect as you are. Whatever you're feeling, whatever you're going through, does not mean that you're not divine.
Right.
It does not change whatever you're going through or feeling, does not change the fact that you're perfection. And so it was all about and this is really important because we were going to talk about how to access the divine within.
Right.
And then when you go in, you get lessons from inside intuitively that are teaching you, this is what your path is about. This is the way I want you to view this. This is what I want you to know, is that you can let go of being self-conscious and be yourself. And that is owning your divine, standing in your divine authority. um, and so it is really important to not judge ourselves and not have shame about being human.
Yes. I love that. And again, we feel, and this happens to a lot of teachers, and actually when I was really early on in my spiritual path, um, I would put my spiritual teachers up on these pedestals.
Mm-hmm.
And we felt is if they were less than spiritual, if they displayed their more
Mm-hmm.
human aspects,
Mm-hmm.
then it'd be like we kind of would throw out their teachings, because well, if you can't walk your talk 24/7, then maybe you're not, and it's kind of like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And that has been, and then as I became a teacher, well, that really came back to bite me in the rear window, because I I was the only thing that kept me alive, I think, is the healing work that I did, that it kept me um, on this planet, because I'm supposed to be here, because I really, if they gave out PhDs for addictions and for bad behavior, I'd have several.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that I'm alive today to tell this story is truly a miracle. It
Mm-hmm.
really is. By the time I got sober, and that was the first addiction I tackled, that and cigarettes, I was a highly functioning addict, highly functioning. But by the time I quit that, I wasn't so highly functioning. And the only thing that got me through was these healing things I do, and my guides, and my to this day my guides say, wow, you were a handful, kid. you know we're so happy we've got you here, and that's the thing. And and when we do release something, when we do shift through that, then to get through that blame and that shame and looking back on, oh, I wished I wouldn't have done that. No, that's part of your path. And for me, because I've done so many things like that, um, it I have a broader base of people that can relate to me and that I can relate to. And it was all part of the process. And so what you're saying, seeing the perfection in the imperfection. And I think right now more than ever, with everything that's going on in this world, to really try to come to that place where no matter what, each and every person, whatever they're doing right now on the planet, are the same divine spark that we are. The behavior is something else. That's 3D, that's human. That's just this skin suit acting out.
Mm-hmm.
But inside of that skin suit is divine spark of God, just like you, just like I, just like everyone. Everyone is the same inside. What it looks like on the outside is different. Please don't judge it and forgive it, and to see within ourselves, because we may not be doing the exact same thing that they're doing, but I guarantee you there is some part of us that have done that at some point, or some version of that. Maybe less, maybe more.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and everything gets amplified outside of us so that we can look at it, that it gets our attention.
Yeah.
And it's amplified on purpose. So, which we can talk a little bit about that, but I really want to say that your path has been your gift, because
Yes.
your path has brought you to a place where you can help so many people. Um, that need your type of help, and you are extremely intuitive. I mean, I have spent time with you, and I you are very intuitive, and so you, all these gifts are there. It's really funny how we don't see our own gifts. We see other people's gifts. I've done that too. I'm like, now how come I can't do that, or whatever the case might be, and I have to sit back and go, why am I looking at other people? Why can't I just stay here and know that my path is perfect for me, and that there's a reason why whatever gifts I have versus somebody else's. And the other thing is, I heard somebody say this, and I thought this is from a movie actually, is that you don't have to see a blessing to know that you are a blessing.
Oh, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I do love that. I think you asked a really important question about, we don't see our gifts, we see others. One of the things that I think that we're shifting from when we move from a 3D kind of black white reality of duality, to a 5D existence, which is more of love, and we're trained. We have been trained for since time this time began to compare. We're all about we've been about competition, comparison, um, being better than, being as good as, and if you don't make this amount of money, you're not successful. If you don't have this type of house or this type of car, you're not successful. Way before we started waking up, really waking up to this new thought, if you will, um, it it's always been about competition, power, greed, the more lower vibrational qualities of consciousness. Now, we don't, it part of why I think we do compare, and that's one of the biggest challenges that we have as spiritual beings, is because probably lifetime after lifetime, dimension in dimension, however you want to look at it, we've all been in that competition. I grew up in a very competitive family. If you can't do it right, don't do it at all. If you're going to do it, you better be the best.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is ingrained in us, absolutely ingrained. And so we need to kind of cut ourselves some slack. And when we do catch ourselves comparing ourselves to someone else or getting down on ourselves, well, I'm not as good as because I can't do this or I can't do that, to stop, take a breath, and go, no, I'm exactly who I should be, and I'm perfect just the way I am.
Mm-hmm.
Terry did a meditation this morning that was so beautiful. And we say, I love you all the time. And I love so many things and so many people. But to say, I like you, that's bigger. That's really important. And she asked, do you like yourself? And it was like this huge epiphany.
Mm-hmm.
Deb, this morning it was like, yeah, I really do. And if I had an opportunity to change anything in my lifetime, in this physical lifetime, I wouldn't change a second of it.
Mm-hmm.
Not a second. Because all the addictions, all the bad behavior, and the good behavior made me exactly who I am today. And I do like me. And do you know, it took me 62 years to go, I like me. I love me, but I like me.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And I'm so grateful to Terry for that meditation this morning because it was like, like that lightning bolt coming down out of the sky. And it's important.
It's it is, and that's beautiful, and you're not alone because I've done the same thing. So I've had, I don't know if it was about 2, 3 years ago, John the Baptist asked me, "Well, don't you like being Debbie?" And I was like, "I don't know." Don't you like, this is a role you've been given. This is the life you, this is your movie, your show, your whatever. This is your character. Do you not like your character? Do you not like Deb? And it really made me stop and think, sort of what you were talking about, what Terry asked this morning. And I'm like, I don't know. It's because I was still judging myself through a lens of right and wrong, good and bad, rather than just allowing the knowingness of who I am and that there's nothing wrong with me. And so it is such an important part of our spiritual ascension, because this is where it gets into how to access the divine. Because if you don't have validation from the divine of who you truly are, it is really hard to go off of just other people, off of people that are not awake, and what an earth description of what makes you all right versus what divine love tells you is
I,
true.
I love that because, you made a very important point. And I speak of this from firsthand experience because one of the things that really came out in this last couple of months of going within, which has been such a blessing for me, is that my whole life I have sought validation and approval from everything outside of myself. And here's the problem that I've run into with that. Even people who are awake are still flawed in some way. Not bad, not good, but we all have some, none of us, if we're perfect, we're not walking here. We're going somewhere else. And so when you base your whole concept of who you are on outside validation, my biggest struggle in my life, whether it's from my family, whether it's from my friends, whether it's from people that I see as my superiors, um, you know, if any of that goes sideways, everything goes sideways in your world. It will take you out at the knees. And so what you're saying is so important because my biggest lesson and challenge right now is to, don't get me wrong, I love it when I hear from people, you're beautiful, or I love you, or I'm grateful for you. I love that. But that has to be icing on the cake. The cake has to be, I'm learning to access me inside to say, yes, you are perfect the way you are. Yes, you are loved. And I love what you're saying, Deb. And that's what your whole show about divine relationship recovery is all about,
Mm-hmm.
is accessing that. And that is what, if I could give one gift to everybody out there, that would be the gift.
Mm-hmm. Is receiving
Yes.
your own true being, receiving and accepting. And I think that's what the whole journey is about, Jeryl Anne. I think it's removing the faulty self part, and it strips it away. As we walk along this path, we're just stripping away the faulty self, and it is divine love that strips away the faulty self, not you. You think you're doing all this work,
Yeah, you
but
do.
God's working inside of you, stripping this all away, and we all connect differently, and learning how to receive our own love.
Yes.
And I had, and I went through this because I didn't know how to do that. And I think I've mentioned that, God told me for like a year and a half to 2 years, every morning, I love you. And it felt so good to hear it, but I wasn't taking it in. Like I take it in and then I'd forget it. I would be like, it was gone as fast as it came. And I didn't know how to receive my own love. And so then I went through a whole process of learning how to do that. And then the process is, how do I receive and accept my own divinity? That even though I see myself as a human, how do I know that? How do I look at myself as that human is not imperfect? It is perfect. You are perfectly made. But we look at everything, and when you've had trauma in your life, which both of us have had, I went through a period of time where I was smoking pot every single night to put myself to sleep because I couldn't sleep. And I thought, well, and I had so much going on in my life, so much stress that, I didn't know how to cope with all the things that were going on in my life. And so I went through different periods of my life where I would turn to pot. I tried to drink, but I can't hold any alcohol. And and so I've done all of these things looking for something to take away the pain of what I felt inside, just like you're explaining. And we do this, and it doesn't have to be drugs and alcohol. I mean, addiction. I was smoking cigarettes too. So I went through a lot of these things and not really dealing with the fact that I had any kind of problem of why I was, and then I started asking, well, if why doesn't it feel good to be you? Why do I have to use something to make me feel like it's it's okay to be me?
Mm-hmm.
And not even really knowing who me was because I wasn't awake back then. So you're going on all of these crazy ideas of who you think you are by your experiences, and none of them are true. And so unless we're accessing this love, we don't really have the right. We're not reading the right textbook.
No, we're not. And you bring up a really valid point. I was an alcoholic by the time I was 13. And I was drinking, I was smoking pot, and I was what they call a wake and baker. So basically, if my eyes were open, I was smoking pot, I was doing acid back in the 70s. And that was a lifelong journey for me. I had 5 decades of severe addictions. And there were times when I'd give up one, but I'd replace it with another. And it was my first addiction was sugar. At the age, I started really just consuming massive quantities of sugar when I was about 5. I'm 6'1". I'm the opposite extreme of you. And I was bullied a lot all the way through high school. I didn't go to college because I couldn't fathom 4 more years of being bullied. They would make fun of me. They'd stand out in the hallway and wait for me to come by every day. And so I didn't want to feel the pain. I've been an
Mhm.
outcast all of my life. I didn't want to feel the pain anymore. And I had felt that way my whole entire life. It hasn't been until recently that I actually am feeling at peace more than not, because it's always been there in the back of my mind, in my subconscious mind. And so I just went from one addiction to another, and it was sugar, it was alcohol, it was all kinds of food, it was cigarettes, it was pot, it was cocaine. I love to do cocaine because they all numbed me out. I didn't want to feel, and I think we need to really look at anyone who has any kind of addiction. I don't care if it's shopping, gambling, I don't care what it is. It's because there is something within inside of us that says we are not enough. And it is so painful as spirit to be in a body and not feel like you are enough, to feel like you are not loved. And if there's anything I can do on this planet to help someone find that within themselves, find that love within themselves, that's what I want to do here. That's my mission, because I'm still learning that. And we just need to be gentle with ourselves, each and every one of us. And when the pain is too overwhelming, and we have to numb ourselves, to forgive ourselves, and to ask for help. No matter where it comes from, whether it comes from your spirit team, whether it comes from a friend, whoever. I think that's a lot of our journey. I think recovering from the path we chose, and I maybe recovering isn't the right word, but each and every one of us, I truly believe we picked our families, we picked our paths, because the whole soul's purpose, in my mind, this is my opinion, is to have experiences, to have all these different experiences. And we've probably all been Black, we've probably all been white, we've probably all been Asian, we've probably all been male and female, and you name it. We have probably run the gamut, so that our soul can have these, all of this myriad of experiences. And so to go through them, and that's the hardest thing, because I can beat myself up better than anybody, And so I think the journey is about acceptance, and loving ourselves and finding that divine. But it isn't always an easy path.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes it's pretty tough.
Yeah, and everybody has a different path that they're walking, and some of them are much more traumatic than others.
Yeah.
And so, what you're saying is just so beautiful, because you see where your heart is in helping other people validate themselves and learn how to not, as whatever we're going through is what we teach. We,
Yes.
we are teaching everything that
Perfect.
we need to
Yeah.
learn.
Perfectly
And
said.
yeah, and it's really it's remarkable when you really take a step back and look at, oh my gosh, look what my life's been like, and look what I got through, and I got to hear, and oh my God, I got to hear, and really honor yourself for doing that, for walking the walks that you walked. And I could say the same thing too, that it is amazing to sit back and walk and say, I have been so self-destructive in my life on this path, but at the same time I felt moved some way by spirit that was always sort of going along while I was on this self-destructive path. And that these both things are happening simultaneously, that and all of a sudden there's a fork in the road, and it comes together, and you're like, oh, okay, I see more clearly now. I see where I'm supposed to be, and I know why I walk through. I know why I walk through that path. I
Absolutely.
know what I'm here to do. I know what my purpose and my passion is. I know what God gave me as an assignment, as a calling, as that I'm here to do something really special.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
And I think that's, and you hit it right on the head. It's that if, and one of the things that we're learning, I think, collectively, is to see, of course, there's a lot of really what we would consider negative things going on, obviously, but to find the higher vibration of it, so, I have, one of the challenges I think that we find in this, like you said, you can be really in this high place here, but also have the extreme opposite happening at the same time.
Hmm.
And it's finding that way to ultimately make the end outcome your story, and not stay stuck in the story. And I find that a big challenge for me, because I need to tell people, okay, I do have compassion. I do understand. And this is why I understand, because I have this support kind of group that we do every week. And the first week I showed them a picture and they went, "Who's that?" I went, "It's me." "Oh, no, 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 that can't be you." I was probably about 60, 70 pounds heavier. I was ravaged. My body was ravaged by alcohol, drugs, everything. I was puffy. I was bloated. I mean, if they needed a poster child for, what you can do, that would have been the perfect picture, but it shocked them. And I show people that because I don't want to stay in the past, but I also want them to see that no matter how low you think you've gone or how horrible you think your circumstances are, you can move away from that. And that can you can have a new story. You can have a new life. Is it easy? Nope. And I swear it was divine intervention that got me on my path 7.5 years ago. But it's doable. If I can do it, because honestly, I couldn't even imagine walking through this life without all those substances. At least I could maybe give up one or two, but I wasn't giving them up. I wasn't giving up all of them. And I always told my niece, I said, I don't care. I never had children, right? So I said to my niece, I said, okay, now Aunt Jeryl is going to get old someday and you're going to need to take me in, but you better make sure I got pot all the time and cigarettes, right? And because honestly, I was in so much pain all the time. I couldn't imagine not having to numb myself out.
Mhm.
And I can say today, right now, in this moment of time, I am completely clean.
Mhm.
I even let sugar go. So and now I've grown enough that when something comes up, I've got the tools and I can sit with it and not push it back down and numb it.
Mhm.
And my mission is to help as many as I can that are willing to do the same.
That is so beautiful. And now, what did you say you didn't know what your gift was?
That's my gift. Yeah, and like you said, we can share our gifts to others. It's like if I'm not this great channeler or this or that, then, and that's that whole comparison. And that's really that one of my greatest gifts in this is to see mine and know that that is supposed to be my gift.
Right. And isn't this is so amazing too because you are a great channeler. I have seen you bring through so many awesome messages. So we just do not see the fullness of
Yes.
ourselves. We look at ourselves like in these little like compartments
Uh-huh.
of I see this part about this aspect of myself, but I don't see the whole fullness of myself. Or I'll look at these few aspects and that's basically what I see without really seeing the amazing being that you are, the amazing being that you in your fullness, all of that is your fullness, is what you bring to the table.
Yes. And that's what I want. I have here lately, I've realized when I am the most passionate and have been over the last 3.5 decades, it's when I teach. I love knowledge. I love to learn new things and I love to share that. And what you said was so important. We only teach what it is we need ourselves, and so it's so much fun because when I have a class, the people that I'm working with, they teach me probably more than I
Mhm.
ever could think of teaching them. And I get so excited. That is when I'm in complete bliss. And of course, I'm amazed that I enjoy doing the show on Saturday. We've got a new show coming up and the coffee and conversation in the morning. Terry and I have been doing it for months now. And I had to take my husband to the hospital yesterday. And it was so interesting because I was, it, I couldn't be on the show because I was sitting actually in the parking lot at the VA hospital when the show was on. And then I was on my way home and I missed it. You know, and don't get me wrong, I was so worried about my husband, but I knew he was in good hands. But I missed that soul family. I missed that interaction that I had gotten so used to. And so I realized that, you know, 779, it's so important for me to stay on this spiritual path and to own that part of me. And it's a process, and I want everybody out there to know we're all going through our own process, and to not give up on yourself because it doesn't look the way your ego tells you. And that's what I find out, that it's really, that's what it is. We got to have an ego because that keeps us alive, right?
Right.
It reminds us to eat. It, you know, keeps us safe. If there's some danger, you know, it warns us. But unfortunately, somewhere along the way, we kind of let it take over. And so, you know, it isn't always, it thinks it's helping us, but it's not. It's not. So, you know, we, you know, if we can start to really separate that out and go into your divine, again, it always circles back around, doesn't it, Deb? Going into your heart and getting in touch with your divine self. It always circles back to that.
Always. So maybe we can talk about how you access that, so that people have other ideas of how they access divine love.
Yeah. You know, there's so many ways now for me. I can just go out and sit by the river and just kind of go within myself. When I was going through holistic life coach training with Jane and Philip Mount Rose and Awakenings Institute, they have a process called soul centering. And it is a beautiful process. And it takes you into your heart, which is where the soul resides. And it helps you to access that higher self, that soulful self. And you can start to ask questions in that. I also, here over the last couple months, and it's been raining here so much, I haven't been able to the last week or so, but I will just go out and lay on the ground. Of course, we're right here by the river, and just sit and do a breath, breathing. You know, breath work is so important as well. So there are, I think, probably as many ways to connect as there are people. It's just doing it. And that was another thing I had a hard time with, is because of my low self-esteem and thinking I wasn't as good as, and because I didn't have these numinous experiences that other people were having, I figured I can't, I'm like shut off, right? And so I couldn't meditate. I couldn't, you know, I would try TM, I would try this, I would try that. My mind would just like, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this. And it hasn't been till recently that I've really been able to start getting more centered, and doing that soul centering really helped me. But even then, it was the ego wanting to keep me from discovering my true power and my true divinity, you know?
Such a great point, because that's something that most of us are dealing with, is that why we're so distracted from going inside is because the ego believes that you only get validation from the outside. So its job, it's got a job, is to keep you focused outside of yourself, which keeps you away from understanding who you are, because you have to go inside to learn that, and to feel it, to feel the connection of divine love and know it. So you have this opposition all of the time, and it's about really, it is mastering your internal mind of that I'm not, who's in charge here, who's in charge. And sometimes it feels like a battle, is like, because you got this opposition going on, which is really interesting to me, because I know that is part of the illusion too. There is no opposition, but it certainly feels like it.
Yeah.
And it keeps you from being quiet, from being still, from meditating, from wanting to go inside. I know for myself, when I first went inside, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to find here, and I don't know if I'm up for this. And it was opening Pandora's box. There was so much more than I ever imagined to have to work through. But you're not doing it by yourself. You're doing it with love. Loving hands are always on you while you're doing any transformation, or anything that you do, because your existence is one with God. So you can't not do anything without divine love. It's just not possible. It's walking with you even though you're like this. I can't see, I can't hear, I can't feel, but it's there.
Yeah.
Um, so those are great things. So you're talking about nature being a great way to access um, closeness, of going inside and accessing divine love, because everything is one. Everything outside of you is inside of you. So for me, it was meditation,
Mm-hmm.
that I meditate, and it started out where if I gave myself 5 minutes, it was a whole lot, because I couldn't deal with more than 5 minutes. Like I couldn't sit still for 5 minutes, and now it's at least 45 minutes to an hour in the morning, right after I wake up, and then journaling whatever happened in my meditation. But it's taken a long time, because I went through the process of hearing chatter constantly, and I still do, and it still distracts me. So don't expect it to just go away, because it just doesn't. Some days are better than others, right?
Uh-huh.
And and so I just remind myself, it's okay. I'm just going to let that go and try to redirect myself back to focusing on what I'm meditating. And so there's this waffling process that you just go through, of bringing yourself back and bringing yourself back and bringing yourself back, and it never stops. And I would get so frustrated at first. Oh my God. And John the Baptist said to me, don't you think this is a fun way to learn? And I was like, no. But it's our point of perception of
Yeah.
how we perceive everything, right? He's saying this could be a fun way to learn, Deb, of how to understand that there's some other, the ego or whatever, or this consciousness that's not real, that you have to stop believing in, and keep refocusing yourself back into your heart again. And so for me, it has been quiet, stillness, meditation, that that I access that. But it is so different for everyone. Like I could be reading a book, and all of a sudden this thought comes, or
Yeah.
this feeling comes, and then you're being spoken to. Even if you're not hearing it auditorily, you're feeling it in your heart. It's like God's talking to you, and it's being translated in your heart.
It's like a knowingness.
Hmm.
And I would encourage everyone to, even if you don't know your guides' names or anything else, know that each and every one of us have guardian angels with us. We have spirit guides. The ascended masters, the archangels. There's also our galactic family. I know I'm not alone. I know I'm not alone. I know that it was Jesus that got me sober. I know that it was my guardian angels and my galactic family and all of these, my spirit team, I call them. I don't know. Up until maybe 6 months ago, a year, I didn't know all their names and I didn't know for sure. But their whole point, their whole job is to be here with us and to walk through this with us and help us in any way they can. I remember recently, they're like my Bert and Iris, they're my main guardian angels, right? And they're like, we're so bored. Give us something to do, you know? And that's their job. That's what they want to do. And we forget. I forget. I forget all the time. Oh my gosh. Well, okay, come on, guys, help me. So I have a little reminders. Like before I did this show, I said, okay, please, bring to my heart what needs to be spoken, what needs to come forth. So I've been doing this for 35 years. You think I'd be walking on water by now? Oh, heck no. No, 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 no. So, we really need to lighten up a bit. We need to be gentle with ourselves, and we need to be okay with the fact that, especially right now with everything that's going on in the collective consciousness, it's bringing stuff up in us, and it's not very comfortable. It's really not. I mean, I'd like to get through a day again. I was doing really good, and then all of a sudden, this whole everything. I'd like to get through a day where I didn't have to sit and, do some kind of releasing or some kind of acceptance or whatever. But it is what it is. But each time it's easier and it gets shorter and I feel more at peace. And so it's just all of our journeys are different, but this is why we're here. If we were supposed to be in a utopia, we would be somewhere else. That's, I have to keep reminding myself that and to be gentle. Yeah.
Yes. And the better we get at mastering our ability to focus on peace and love and joy and to expect peace and harmony, to expect goodness, to expect greatness, to expect all of these wonderful things, the more we move out of the expectation of victim consciousness and into the positivity of what you can do, it will continue to shift your outer world. And so this whole thing is learning how to balance where your mind is going, what you're focusing on, and trying to get into a state of joy, because it is joy, which is a stillness, a peace in your heart, okay? It's a peaceful stillness in your heart, joy, not like running around crazy. And when we can stay in that place, we are shifting our reality on the outside, because we know all that we are is love. All that is there is love. So once we accept and believe on a daily basis, and that's a trial every day, it will shift your life completely, that you only see goodness.
It's taking back our divine power. I've never read the Bible, but there are a couple phrases I remember, and here's my favorite, and this is the one, and I'm paraphrasing. Jesus said, that which I can do, you can do, and more. And here's the thing. We are so powerful. We have been, again, since time began, we have been taught that the power is outside of us. Everything is outside of us. God is outside of us. Everything is outside of us. And that we don't have power. And the truth is, we are divinely powerful. And we forget it, because that we're not talking just, a belief system from this lifetime. We are talking about a belief system that has it, that we have lived with forever. And so we have to remember that we are that powerful, that we can create anything that we choose to create. We just have to learn to do that. We're going so against all of our upbringing, so against everything we've been taught. And that is that is my biggest challenge, is to remember that in every moment of my day, because we slip into the old patterns. But again, as you said, every day we can do it a little more and a little more and a little more. And that's the thing. And when you do it, pat yourself on the back and go, good for you. Good for you. This is awesome. This is awesome. Because I guarantee you, spirit is just, they're like, yay, they got pom-poms, they got everything. They are going crazy when we remember who we are in our divinity.
Yes.
We are divine.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
Beautifully said. It is so true. And it's so I love all of that, Jeryl Anne. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
And to I know we're running just a little bit over, but it's okay. The one thing that I thought was important is I was reading a book the other day, and it was saying that you need to offer yourself up to God, offering yourself up to God, and so what I was taking that in my interpretation is I felt like, well, I've done that. I have offered myself up to God, and all of a sudden I heard God come through and say, you know what? The way that you're reading this is not what I want. He said, you already offered yourself up to me. I've even told him, take me home. I don't want to play anymore. I don't like this game. Right.
Yeah,
And I've said, take me home. I want to be with you. I don't need to play this game anymore. And he said, but he said, that's what you've already done that. That's not what I want. I want to stay here and bring you all of your dreams and walk this path with you in what I meant for you to have.
Wow. Powerful.
And it is so powerful. And I just thought, oh my gosh, here we are, we come up with all of these rules and we read things and whatever, and we're taking things in our mind that this is what it's supposed to be like, what you're supposed to look like, what should you feel, what this or whatever. And he's saying, no, ask me. Go inside and ask me, and I will tell you the truth of how I want you to perceive your journey and who you are. So that's why it's so important to access and listen to your intuition and listen to what is being brought forth within you, because it is you. There's no separation. All of your angels, all of these ways that we connect to divine love is you. They're aspects of yourself that are here to help you navigate this journey. And so, you look at those other aspects and you go, oh my God, like I look at Jesus and I'm like, oh my God, this is like, I love you, and he says, I am you. And God says, I am you.
Yes.
And Michael says, Deb, I am you. There is no difference.
I know.
You're just listening to your own amazing self in a different form. And so when you can take that in and know the love that you are and all the love that surrounds you, because nothing else can, it makes this journey so much easier.
Yes, it does. It really does. And that's it. And that in and of itself is also a process, because we've been taught not to believe that. So every day, if we can put that first and foremost in front of ourselves, and maybe in this moment of time I forget that, but that's okay, because in the next moment of time I'll remember it.
Yes.
And that's the journey. That is the journey, is connecting over and over and over into who we are as divine spirit, as equal to absolutely every other person and being, and that in existence.
Mm-hmm.
Equally divine.
Equally divine. Nothing different.
Yeah, yeah.
Beautiful. Gracefully letting go
Yes.
with the power of love,
I
for
love,
in the light I trust and have faith.
yes. I love that. I
And
love that.
and I believe. I believe what I'm taught.
Yeah.
So Reverend Jeryl Anne. Oh
Yes.
my gosh, what an awesome show.
This
What
was
an
so much
awesome
fun.
you.
Thank you.
Awesome you. So please tell people how to get in touch with you and tell them about your new show coming up
Oh my
too.
gosh, I know. Well, everybody, some people know we do coffee and conversation every morning at 7:30. Terry, Angel, and I. It's lovely. Everybody comes in and everybody chats. It's so much fun. We just love it. And then I do Saturday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, Rising Up with Jeryl Anne. And every week, Deb's been on. In fact, this Saturday night is the EWN founder again, Ruth Anderson. And we're going to talk about connecting the spirit again and just all kinds of wonderful things, the books that she's written. And so I bring on interesting guests every week and we just explore all things spiritual and have a great time with that. Now, Diana Allison Beiersdorfer and I am so excited to announce this, are starting a new show. It's on Mondays at 3:33 p.m. Eastern Time every Monday, called Silent Mystic, Finding Your Voice. So many people out there have these mystical stories, like maybe they saw a spirit as a child, or they had all these things happen. Maybe they've seen UFOs or aliens or whatever, but everyone has a story. But not everybody has a platform to tell their story.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to create a very safe space that people can come on and just sit and tell us about their story. Just like I said earlier in the beginning, my friend started channeling Melchizedek. Well, we didn't know what that was, but
Mm-hmm.
and we couldn't talk to anyone. Because if you're like me, everyone around us thought we were just crazy, like really, really crazy and loony bin kind of crazy. So a lot of people have had these beautiful mystic experiences, but not any ability to talk about them or share them. And we're going to give them that opportunity on Silent Mystic. So you can get a hold of myself or Diana Beiersdorfer and tell us if you've had a mystic experience and would like to share it with everyone. And that starts next Monday. I think that is June 8th. It is at 3:33 p.m. in the afternoon. We thought 3:30. Actually, Diana came up with that. This is her brainchild. I am so excited that she asked me to do this with her. She's amazing, and you know she has come to the playground. So I'm so excited, and I can't remember. Oh, we have a young woman from New Zealand who is going to be on with us the first week. So
Awesome.
yeah, it's just
Awesome.
exciting stuff here on that's on Enlightened World Network. So I'm really happy to be doing that. You know, just
That's awesome.
letting
And
people discover their spirituality.
yes,
Yeah.
that's and people need that. People need that. So it's going to be a great show.
Yes.
It's a great, great show. And two beautiful hearts to help people be
Yeah.
able to share their truth. And
That's
don't forget that you have Rising Up with Jeryl Ann on Saturdays, right?
yes.
8 p.m.
And it's and so you know my whole point is to help people get through help them on their spiritual journey, because honestly it can be a very lonely journey at times.
Mhm.
And I don't know how I would be today if I'd had the internet back then, but when we started on our path, there wasn't any internet. There were very few bookstores. In fact, I opened up my own metaphysical bookstore and healing center because my ex said, you know, it'd be a whole lot cheaper if we just had this store, had a store ourselves. And it was, because I couldn't read enough, you know. I'd sit there and I'd read the book without breaking the back so I could read it and put it back on the shelf and sell it, you know.
Oh
But yeah,
gosh.
that's my whole journey, is to help people on their journey and to give them the comfort to know that it's okay. We came here to learn. We came here to grow, because I have those people in my life, you being one of them, when I feel vulnerable, or when I show that side of myself, or when I'm down on myself, when I think I'm not walking my talk in the right way, or I'm not enough. When I have those doubts, when the ego comes in, y'all have been there to help me and to lift me up and to help me soothe my soul. And I want to offer that to other people, is to help soothe their soul, and to know, for them to know that it's all divinely perfect. It's all perfect, and they are divinely perfect. No matter what this exterior looks like, they're just beautiful and they're loved, and it will be okay. And then when you're going through that dark night of the soul, to hang on, because when you wake up tomorrow, it will be better, or maybe it'll be next week, but there's somebody there to hold your hand the whole time. And I want to be one of those people to hold your hand.
Aww.
Yeah.
Reverend Jeryl Anne, you are beautiful, and thank you for shining your love and your light and being with us on Angel Heart Radio.
Well, thank you, Deb. It takes one beautiful soul to know another.
Yes.
Thank you
Thank you
so much for allowing me to be here with you today.
You're very welcome. Very welcome. So when in doubt, never underestimate the power of prayer. You are being listened to and heard throughout the universe, and it always responds with infinite and eternal love. Remember to go inside and listen through your heart for the whispers of heaven. I love you, and God bless you.
You've been listening to another fabulous program on Angel Heart Radio. Our goal is to remind you of how much you matter in the world, and to let you know that we appreciate who you are in the world. You can check out who's on, when we're on, and who our guests are at angelheartradio.com. Everything is there. It's all just one click away. Angel Heart Radio programs are powerful tools to help you in your life and your life experience. They are not intended, nor should they, be used to replace your medical or legal advice.
Powered by love, Angel Heart Radio is brought to you by AngelLight777.com.
The views and opinions expressed by Angel Heart Radio hosts, guests, co-hosts and associates should not be construed as advice from Angel Heart Radio.